Good day, everybody. Happy Sunday and welcome to Living Life in Joy. I am Rev Melissa, and it is my honor and pleasure to be with you all today. So let me introduce myself in case this is your first time visiting with me on Living Life in Joy. I'm Rev Melissa. I am an ordained interfaith minister. I am a religious science practitioner. I'm a spiritual life coach, and I am the spiritual director and senior minister at Rockland Centers for Spiritual Living here in New York. And all of that is my ministry of joy, where I support people in living life in joy, connected to their yes. So I have been having an amazing May with some dynamic women who are about their work, and they are clearly connected to their yes. So let me just recap for a moment. The first Sunday in May, I had the incredible Gail Ricketts. She's an attorney, and she calls herself a recovering codependent. She's a speaker and life coach, and she's the author of a trilogy of her life. She wrote 3 books about her life. You can check out her work on Amazon. On Mother's Day, I had the beautiful Alethea Brown. She is a career visual artist and poetic storyteller, and she's the CEO and founder of Unveiled, Unlocked. And that organization celebrates women of bare or partially bare heads. She is seeking to expand the beauty code and educate us. They are celebrating their 10th anniversary with a kickoff celebration during Harlem Week on August 14th, which is a great day in Harlem at Grant's Tomb. You can follow Alethea Brown on her Instagram, Unveiled, Unlocked. And then last Sunday, we had Noreen Chambers. She is the founder of the Nuna Collection. It is a company, it's dynamic, natural styled wigs and quirky hats. And I showed some of them last Sunday on the show. The Nuna Collection is designed for the discerning woman who wants to diversify her look and not divorce herself from the culture. I love everything about that. You can follow Noreen on her Instagram, Nuna Collection Wigs. All right, so if you'll miss any of that, you can watch the replays on my YouTube channel, I Am Rev Melissa. So, can I just tell y'all, I am so grateful for our next guest. We had a wonderful conversation the other day, and I just love the way that spirit works. I love the way that spirits work because our paths have joined up, through social media initially, right? And I'm just so grateful to have her on the show. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to her via a video. But first, let's go, set, ready. All right.
Unbeknownst to me, my very own mother, Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, was one of the Little Rock Nine, one of the first 9 Black students to desegregate Central High School in 1957. My name is Spirit Tawriq, and I'm the founder of Roots of the Spirit. I was born and raised in Northern Ontario, Canada. And as a kid, I was bullied and discriminated against, as well as my brothers and sisters, because of the color of our skin. Unbeknownst to me, my very own mother, Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, was one of the Little Rock Nine, one of the first 9 Black students to desegregate Central High School in 1957. She didn't tell her children this because it was too painful, and the nation had not acknowledged that it happened on a grand scale. Once I learned my mother's story, there was no turning back. So I began doing research, and all through high school, I was digging into the story of my mother's background and the Little Rock Nine, and just so inspired by young people who were so courageous to experience such hatred and humiliation and violence, and all they wanted to do was go to school. To see the global outcry for ending injustice and racism, anti-Black racism in the United States. So it's incredibly exciting, and it infuses me with so much hope. I see the Black Lives Matter movement as a continuum, but in this moment in time, there are so many people who are really, really eager to begin the lifetime commitment to learn about our interconnected history and also our path to this moment and how they can play a role in uprooting racism. Right now, there's a consciousness shift. People are awakened to the fact that racial injustices have been happening in this country for over 400 years. I created the Roots of the Spirit podcast as a platform to have honest conversations about identity, race, racism, and social justice. A few of my notable guests are one, my mother, Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, Jane Elliott, who is an iconic educator who rolled out the Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes exercise in her third grade classroom, and Jason Ward, who is a Black birder who spoke so colorfully about his passion for birds and the outdoors, and racism and discrimination are a part of his experience. One of my guests, Dr. Todd Allen, who is quoting Dr. Terrence Roberts, who is one of the Little Rock Nine, saying that you can't have honest conversations about race and racism unless we have an informed historical perspective. It is all of our responsibilities to step up, get involved, and come away from the sidelines. Use within your hands, within your power, within your resources, whatever tools you have to stand up and make a change in our world.
I did it. I'm producing myself today, y'all. So I'm so happy that that worked. And so without further ado, please welcome to Living Life in Joy, the amazing Spirit. Spirit, pronounce your last name for me again.
Tawriq.
Tawriq.
Yes.
Spirit Tawriq.
Thank
Welcome.
you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just lit up watching your intro and just being in space with you. It's amazing. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much for reaching out.
You are very welcome. So let's get into it. And for some reason, this happens every now and then when I have on a guest that I just feel like I know already.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting feeling. And so that's how I feel about you, Spirit. So let's start with your journey. Let's start there. What is your testimony?
So I like to be able to, it's a very long story, but the distilled version is that I was born and raised in Northern Ontario, Canada, on a subsistence farm with 5 siblings and my parents. My mother is Black from Little Rock, Arkansas. My father is white from Illinois. Mm-hmm. So growing up, that was my regular life, just, being on the farm, outdoors being our greatest adventure. Loved the farm, animals, etc. So there was nothing that I looked at as abnormal. It was just life. And excuse me. It wasn't until we went to school that, our classmates started using derogatory language toward us. A lot of names we had no idea what they meant. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so something was pointed out that there was something wrong with me and my siblings, and we experienced racism and discrimination. So what ended up happening, because of the nature of racism, we didn't talk about it with our family. We didn't tell the teacher, none of that. We just kind of kept it to ourselves. And unbeknownst to me, as mentioned in the video, my mother is one of the Little Rock Nine, literally had to have a soldier to keep her safe going to school each and every day. So as soon as I found that out, it was like such a transformative moment in my life. I fell in love with that story, these young people who are so incredibly courageous. And fast forward over 20 years, I've been continuing to keep this story alive, my personal family legacy, but also this national, global story of young people who are, making such a huge change. Yeah.
It is incredible. It is incredible. And so I know that you went back to Little Rock. Tell us a little bit about going back to Little Rock and what you recovered.
Thank you for asking that, because that kind of is at the heart of, when you say testimony, I think of, okay, so my story is just like everyone else's. But the interesting thing, and the reason why I consider it part of my life's calling and purpose, is the fact that this Canadian born and raised on a farm in the wilderness young person had no clue that I would ever move to the United States, let alone Little Rock, Arkansas, and work at the very site that my mother desegregated years prior. So I could never have dreamed that up in a million years. Of course, I knew my relatives lived in Little Rock, had visited before, but just that part of the story is so unbelievable.
Yes.
So we moved to the States in 99. I had just started college, and we lived in Maryland initially. My mother worked in the Clinton administration. And so when President Clinton left office, ironically, another twist of fate is my uncle, my mother's brother, became sick. So my mother said, we're already in the States. It's been so long. It had been like over 40 years since my mother had been home, so to speak, like living there. So she said, you know what? My mother is getting older. I really need to go home. So she went home. My little sister and I were like free spirits. And we're like, let's go to LA. Let's be actresses and movie stars and all of that. We saved up our money. Anyways, we stopped in Little Rock, and 12 years later. So interestingly enough, I had worked for the Canadian park system 2 years prior in a youth program. So when I arrived in Little Rock, we had been to the historic site before in Central High School, et cetera. It had just become a unit of the National Park Service. So it's kind of hard to get into the Park Service, but the fact that I had that previous experience really helped. So I started out as an entry-level seasonal position, and literally 10 years later, I went from seasonal to like the public affairs specialist. We hosted a huge commemorative 50th anniversary. And I literally, as I describe it, I wish I had like a recorder on me, because I met so many people who witnessed and experienced the Central High crisis firsthand. Of course, I'm family friends with the 9, but also their families, their children. We're all family and friends, but white students who went to Central, who have lived in shame for 40 plus years. Some white students who saw nothing wrong with what they did. Soldiers, police officers, we did oral history. So in other words, that's where I feel as though the testimony comes in.
Yeah.
Is being witnessed and kind of, unfortunately and fortunately, uprooting this really painful wounds of my mother's that she may or not have faced on this level had I not gone to work at Central.
Yes, and Spirit, what you're speaking to is, the uprootment is where the healing starts, and so for you to embrace that and to make it your calling, what a gift you have given your mother. First of all, just priceless what you have given your mother, and then to have that just radiate, in the way that it is on the planet is beautiful. So you created an organization called Roots of the Spirit. Now, I know people are curious. They're probably thinking, because I did, that ain't that girl's name. That girl's name ain't Spirit. Come on, tell the people.
So interestingly enough, my family farm in the wilderness, my parents were hippies. That's just all there is to it. They literally they left the United States in protest of the Vietnam War. They got married during the thick of anti-miscegenation laws. So their resistance was always in their spirit. So they were doing something so incredibly different. So it's almost in line with that. So my father, I asked him a couple years ago, who named me and why? And he said, we were thinking of the name Esprit, which is spirit in French. And we're like, you know what? Let's just go all in. So my name is Spirit Amber Tricky at birth. And now, my married name is Spirit Amber Tawriq.
Spirit Amber Tawriq. I love it. And so Roots of the Spirit, right? That's also, it's almost kind of like a play on your name also. And I know that was probably very intentional on your part, but tell me how both of those levels of connecting with spirit as who you are and spirit as a healing, share your work in that regard.
I love that question, and I just feel honored to be sharing. I really feel, like you said, there's such a connection here. So how do I put it? There was a point in my life I was around 35 years old where I'm like, what does all this mean? Like, what does me being born in Canada to Black and white parents, to my mother being a part of the civil rights movement, to the experiencing discrimination, moving to the States, working at the historic site, starting to like dabble into my own spiritual path. What does this all mean? Like, what is this? And it's almost exactly what you're saying, like this testimony. How can I use this for good? Because all of my work has been about service. And I was like, how do I take what I've been doing and create something that can empower others? So in 2015, I came up with the name Roots of the Spirit. I'll never forget, like sketching out different names, and like the name stuck. Yeah. And I'll tell you the truth. My big goal dream was, I don't know if you know this segment on Super Soul Sunday, Oprah Winfrey's show. There's like 5-minute shorts about really beautiful, inspirational stories. And I was like, I'm going to create a show that is kind of like in line with that. Just a beautiful testimony to people living out their purpose, and also our identity infused in that. That's, part of it. By nature, the conversation around race and racism is like, I can't avoid it. So I'm like, let me like lean into this, but also identity. Identity in like the big picture, but also the everyday like labels that are put on us. So I created Roots of the Spirit initially in light of what I just described. But in 2019, I created a podcast, and I was like, I know I need to really, really narrow in. And what do people know me for naturally? It's talking about race and racism and identity. So I decided to like hone in a little bit. So Roots of the Spirit is my platform to uproot racism through storytelling, education, and the arts. And I have a variety of different offerings like anti-racism workshops. I teach young people about the Little Rock Nine. And I also have a podcast where we have honest conversations about race and racism in hopes that that honesty can bring about change. Yes. And then most recently, I think the way we became connected is, once again, the culmination of everything that I want to bring forth is the launch of the inaugural Roots of the Spirit Healing and Joy Retreat for Black, Indigenous, and women of color.
Yes. Yes. So you said so much that I want to unpack a little bit. So first, let's talk about the retreat, because one, May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And retreats, I love retreats. They really feed my spirit. They feed my soul. So this is your first one. And I know that it's going to be dynamic. So what is your, what do you want women to leave there feeling and knowing about themselves?
I get chills just hearing that. There's so much, and I wish we could talk for hours. Yes. In essence, it's about healing, and it's about joy. So I strategically called it the Healing and Joy Retreat. So I won't step in too deep in terms of telling you what the pieces of joy in my life are, but growing up in the outdoors, that is home to me. Like being in nature, I feel completely at home on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. And so I really want to promote that outdoors being like a sacred place. So there's that element in terms of the setting being very important. So to your point about Mental Health Awareness Month, I want to acknowledge that racism is a public health crisis, and it's making us sick and it's killing us. And, I don't have to dive too deep into that because we've seen it just as recent as the other day, the consequences of racism. It is lethal and it is
Yes.
a crisis.
Yes.
So recognizing that, but also as Black, Indigenous, and women of color, looking at pre-colonialism, colonization, pre-enslavement, who are we? And from where and whom do we come? What is our culture? What are our practices, our wisdom that is within us?
Yes.
And how to remember that within our bodies. And how can we bring that forth and use it as a tool for empowerment as we carry ourselves through a system and a society that has spent 400 plus years telling us that we are second-class citizens, that we don't deserve, that we don't belong, that we're not worthy.
Yes.
So it's looking back, acknowledging the trauma that has been inflicted, and also with that knowledge moving forward. And I have brought together some amazing, passionate, and experienced facilitators to introduce modalities to calm ourselves, to bring ourselves to center, at peace, meditation, yoga. We're having a cacao ceremony, which is a traditional ancestral Mayan ceremony to help open our hearts to receive this experience. We're going to eat farm-to-table food by local farmers. And of course, we're going to be immersed in the beautiful, majestic Catskill Mountains. And it's a very intimate retreat. I only have 10 slots.
Wow.
So it's going to be like a beautiful convening of women. I mean, that in itself is resistance and activism just to come together.
Yes.
So
yes.
as if you can't tell already, I'm extremely excited.
And I am so excited for you. So I'm glad that this is the first, because that means there's going to be more.
Absolutely.
There will be more. And I hope to participate in an upcoming one because I could just feel the energy as you speak about it. And you're so right. When you were speaking about, before colonization, before, all the experiences of feeling the energy of that before,
Yeah.
know.
When you said that, what came to mind is I've been planning the retreat. Like the retreat has been in me. I literally talked about this retreat in 2014. 2014 with my husband. We were on a trip. We went snowboarding and I was telling him about my idea. And then it kind of lay dormant. We started putting mechanisms in place to make it happen. And then it was supposed to be 2020, of course, and then COVID, etc. But when we sat down to watch High on the Hog, and I'm sure you've watched that, but it is in essence of like that remembering through food and looking at traditional food. I was like, I can't, I have to move forward with this. Because this is literally like, and sometimes I'm doing the work and I'm like, I'm not even here. Someone else is helping me push forward. And it's so wild, but I'm like accepting that there's like a higher power at play here.
Yes. A higher power, our ancestors, all of that is at play and so much more. And Spirit, the power of you saying yes, is so important and it's so inspiring. So if women want to attend the Healing and Joy retreat, how can they do that?
Wow, I would love to extend an invitation. To learn more about the retreats, you can go to rootsofthespirit.com and there's a link there where it will give you all the information. I would love to connect with you firsthand, and that's spirits@rootsofthespirit.com. I would love to share anything that you would like to know, answer any questions. Also, I think by the time this airs, will be kind of around the deadline, but we have 2 scholarships that we'll be granting. We had rolled out a GoFundMe campaign, and so we're going to grant 2 scholarships.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
Rootsofthespirit.com.
Rootsofthespirit.com. And still give to the scholarship fund because there's going to be other retreats in the
Yes,
future.
please.
So, I'm all about
Thank
the
you.
overflow. So give. And so, oh, Spirit, I could keep talking to you forever, but we're gonna shift to our joy segment. So let's shift to our joy segment. All right. So 3 joy questions for you. What does joy feel or look like for you?
Wow, I have a 1-year-old son. He's my first child, and I just have to say, in this moment in time, Nizami Nkosi bin Hisham Koli Tawriq is my absolute joy right now.
Woo! That's a name, girl. You was like, woof. All right. What's the meaning of his name?
So Nizami is administrator. It's kind of like king. But there's also an amazing poet named Nizami who is, as described, kind of like a Sunni Muslim poet, kind of comparable to Rumi. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I say I'm living life in joy. What are you living life in?
I'm living life in spirit.
Yes.
And I say that because it took, growing up, my name was not fun to have. And so I've learned to love my name and embrace it, and also understand that I was given this name for a reason.
Yes, yes, yes. Last question. What is your joy song and why?
Oh, I have so many. Okay, so the one right now is Spirit by Beyonce.
Okay.
I have so many, but right here, right now, I just absolutely love that song.
Beautiful.
You can imagine why.
I can imagine why. Well, beautiful Spirit. Thank you so much for being with me today. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on Living Life in Joy. Blessings to everything that you do.
Thank you.
And I know that Roots of the Spirit is phenomenal.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, everyone, there you have it. Spirit is about doing her work, Healing and Joy Retreat for Black, Indigenous, and Women of Color is happening June 23rd through June 26th this year, upstate in the beautiful mountains of the Catskills. It's about healing, it's about transformation, and it's about celebration. And my spirit has been so filled today by having her as my guest. So please support the work that she is doing. Please give to the scholarship fund so that other women can have this experience of healing also. So that is our show. Let me just wrap up with a couple of announcements for you. So today I am wearing Gladys Williams. She is the creator of Asante Jewels, and I'm wearing her earring and necklace set, and her jewelry is transformational. This right here is a brooch. So I could take this off, put it on my chest here, and then the necklace part becomes 2 bracelets. Yes, y'all. Transformational jewelry. And so I'm hosting a trunk show, Asante's Jewels by Gladys Williams. That's happening on June 4th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom. So bit.ly Gladys Trunk Show. And you can see a preview of her collection at asantesjewels.com. All right. So please join me on June 4th for this trunk show with Gladys Williams. After today, we have Sunday in Praise at Rockland CSL, where I'm the spiritual director and senior minister. And all month, we've been talking about the feeling tone. We're talking about the feeling tone and having your mental equivalent realized in your life. So please join me at 11:30 today, Eastern Time. Go to rocklandcsl.org. We have a special guest, Tony Hamilton, and her topic is looking anger in the face. looking anger in the face. So join me for that. We also live stream the service on Facebook. And then lastly, Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, join me for Sip with Rev Melissa. And Sip is Spirit in Practice, where we practice, right? Because the perfection is in the practice. So peace and blessings, everybody. Peace and justice. We are living life in joy. Yes, we are connected to our yes.